Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome out to tonight's weekly coaches call for all of the coaching members here at TaxSaleSupport. Just want to welcome you out. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this weekly call. We love getting you guys on the call. I'm sitting here, of course, next to Steven Swenson. For anybody that doesn't know, I know sometimes you guys probably get our voices confused. We realize that now after going to the event, today, that sometimes people forget or don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely want to also thank all of you guys that are attending, right now and that attend these live events or these live workshops, online trainings each week, because especially even this time of year being, near the holidays, it just shows your guys' dedication.
Yeah.
That you guys, take the time. And we understand not everyone can always make it and watch the replays is important, but we do appreciate you when you come out here and for these live ones.
Yeah. We we actually just got back on Monday from the Orlando 3-day. So just 2 days ago we got back from it, and it was an awesome event, really, for everybody that attended the event. We really want to, I think, take the time to thank you for coming out there every time that we get the chance to to come and meet you in person. We are always amazed at just the quality of people and the amazing people that you are consistently and always. And we are just we're grateful for it. It is just such an honor to meet all of you, and so we just wanted to thank you again. And we've got lots of good things that are coming up here, and a lot of stuff that is in the works. I mean, there's a ton of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, the one thing is me and Shade are never satisfied with the training, essentially, and what we're providing. We're always trying to figure out how to do it better, how to be more efficient, how to help our students even have that much more success. And so, we're constantly looking at new opportunities and new things that, or even new areas to invest where we can help, especially on our coaching students. Our membership is great, but for our coaching students, you guys really are, what drives this company and that drives the success story. So we want to thank you guys.
Yeah. Also, just something we would note here. We're still setting finalizing it for sure, but it looks like the most likely date for the California event will probably be on February 7th to the 9th, and that'll be in I forget which area it's in.
Well, it's gonna be in Southern California somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you are in that area, you do want to attend, let us know. We are, like Shade said, probably looking there in the first or second week in February. So
yeah, so we're gonna start getting people enrolled in that so that we know when we're full.
Yeah.
And then lots of other things going on too. We've got auctions coming up that we'll be attending, and a lot of other good things. That are coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
In continuation of from last week, and if you're with us last week, we kind of started this, but this is something that we want to do every week. We're constantly gathering success stories, and we're just communicating with different coaching members. In fact, we met a lot of you. We met several of you at the event, and it's awesome. What you guys are doing is amazing, and we loved having you there at the event. It was fun to really have you there. But we know that it's something that provides some, I think, it gives people some inspiration or motivation just to hear how other students are doing, and it gives you some feedback and kind of lets you know, what's happening with other people or success they're having.
Yeah, and while we're talking about this, if you are, buying properties or just purchase your property or selling a property, please send us that information. We'll try to do whatever we can to make it worth it for you, but that definitely helps us. So if you can, type out a quick testimonial or send us some of the property information you purchased. We don't have to use your full name or anything like that. It's more about just giving recognition to the students that are doing well and giving a chance to kind of show people what you guys are doing. But then also the property deals as well, that information, even if it's just the property deal we purchased, so we can show the different properties that are being purchased.
Oh yeah, in fact, I can see Charles is here. Charles was at the 3-day. I can see there, and so it was great to see you there. And David Moore, I can see David Moore there too. David Moore was at the event, and I think that's it so far from this group. So anyhow, guys, thank you very much. And also, so as we're looking at some of the different success stories or what people are sharing, again, if one of you guys doesn't want us to, we try to limit how much information we're going to share about, about people's properties, I guess, and what they've done, so that we don't make people feel weird. But at the same time, though, there's some really inspirational stuff, and Vinny sent us some information that I think it's something, I read through it several times, and I was kind of looking over different properties and just reading through it, I think. So I hope Vinny is okay with this. This is just kind of a part of what he sent, but this is correspondence to us, and I wanted to give you an idea of what other people are doing. And this is this was written as, Vinny basically starts it off saying, this is starting to get fun. I've received payment on one property and need to start the deed transfer process. I have one contract out and I'm waiting to get it back. I also have another property where the buyer wants to finance. So far I've purchased 2 parcels of land in Mississippi from the auction, 4 from the Arkansas Open Encounter List, 2 from Memphis, Tennessee Land Bank, and then he's also got some other liens. Of those, he's also sold a bunch, which I think is just awesome. And on top of that, he's doing some seller financing, and and he basically ends it off there by saying, my average return on investment is about 350%, which that is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you start doing these deals and start doing bigger and bigger deals, that 300-400% returns when you are putting 20 or 30,000 and now getting 80,000 back, that's where you can really start making more money, where you're doing these different types of deals. In fact, I was looking at a property in the Palm Beach area, looking through, they had a sale today, and I looked through and saw some of the properties before the sale, and I wanted to see what they sold for. But there was a real nice 1.5 acre building lot at going up at the sale there in Palm Beach area. Palm Beach is a pretty nice area.
Yeah, right.
And I think the opening bid was about 9,000 or so, and it ended up selling for about the opening bid. But just the assessed value on the property was around 80,000-90,000 or something. And looking at some of the market value, it looked like it could be even a bit higher than that. But that was with an online auction in a good area, where if you pick that lined up, yeah, you're not buying it for maybe $500 or under $1,000. You're spending $10,000 for it. But even if you went through quiet title, and let's say it cost you an extra $2,000, so you're into it $12,000, but you sell it for $100, or even if you just sold it for $80, you would still make a massive return off your investment, and that's with just a property auction that I was looking at today.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's kind of interesting. The last line or two that he has written there, just about the selling in general. He says, he's received the deeds on the properties. Basically says that he's got 2 of the properties sold and transferred. He's got 1 under contract, and he's got one that's reviewing the contract. And he basically says, I have received interest in all but 1 property, which I think I've priced too high. I would have to say that also goes along with our experience, and I think probably with a lot of other people. I don't think we've had anybody that would say that there's just no interest in properties. The properties that we are listing are always getting interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And when there is one that it isn't getting as much interest, it may be a question of dropping the price more, Or it also may be, and it kind of depends on how quick you want to sell the property. Because these properties, maybe he's been listing, let's say they've only been on the market for 3 months. Well, in that case, if you feel that it's still pretty well priced and you don't mind waiting 6 months, we don't mind waiting a little extra time to see if we can get some offers on. In fact, one thing that was interesting is we've dropped prices before, and then at times we've started raising prices back up, where people that were actually watching the property see that the property is going up every 30 days by an extra $500, and they start to get kind of nervous and call about it and want to do a deal. So when it comes to pricing, it's a little bit of especially when we're doing on this type of level or wholesaling, it's a little bit of a process you figure out.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this there, and I think, Dan's sending us some stuff here about what he's done. And it sounds awesome. It sounds like it sounds like Dan's picked up a bunch of property in Arkansas and also in Pennsylvania, and he's in the process of liquidating them. And Dan is also the same guy that that's done several other deals.
Oh yeah.
Dan, you've done an awesome job here. Yeah, in several different states.
Yeah, he's done awesome.
Yeah. So congratulations on that. Really, I think you've been killing it.
But our goal is, even if you don't give us a testimonial, but every one of our coaching students is having success in selling deals.
Yeah, really, I think that's what's important, and that's where you're going to learn the majority of the things that you need to know. And it's also where you're going to make your money. It's where so many different things happen.
Yeah, I mean, even if you didn't do the testimonial, if you're selling property, you are happy, and if you're happy, we're happy. That's really kind of one thing we explained a little bit of the 3-day, go into a little bit of our history, and really teaching this is what me and Shade love to do. We love the investment, we love the strategy. When we first heard about it, as young 20-year-olds, it drew our interest, and we haven't quit researching it yet. And we're constantly researching new things because it is such a huge investment strategy with so many different states where you really can't learn everything there is to know.
Yeah, I think, in fact, I think it would be practically impossible to do that. I mean, it's almost like it's kind of like more than a person could do in their lifetime, kind of thing. Where it's just probably more, municipalities and places out there where you can invest. I mean, just trying to get every state figured out.
Unless you've got a photographic mind, even retaining it. Like there'll be states that we've invested in 5-6 years ago, and when we go back to invest in that state, we know what the state is.
Over again.
But you've got to kind of remember, okay, now exactly how does it work? We've got to go back to the state, our own state guides, and reread what we wrote to remember exactly how that state works.
Yeah. Now, really, what I wanted to be able to kind of do today was for us to just go and look at some of the different properties that are out there, and in the course of that, perform some title research on some properties so that we can kind of see, so you guys can see exactly how that works when we're performing title research, because there's a lot of confusion still between when title searches are needed or required, when you can do it on your own, when you should, I think there's still a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
And so, we wanted to cover a couple things here kind of quickly in terms of a couple of fundamentals, and then really, instead, I've got slides to kind of go step by step into some of these different county website records, but I'd rather go and just go do one of these and just do it live. But the first thing though, just remember, is the due diligence is performed in stages. Okay, so we do different degrees of due diligence for different kinds of properties, is what that really means. It's really all about trying to use proportionate due diligence, or not putting in the proportional amount of research for the investment type.
Yeah, and as that investment goes up and you're spending more and more money on properties, that's where we need to be more and more concerned and look into the property more as well. Just even thinking about, some properties like something like a nice home or something like that, where you're going to be bidding $10,000, $15,000 plus, that's where we really need to make sure that we've looked into the property, because that's where one of those could really make a big mistake for us.
Yeah. So in other words, with some investments, let's say we can find property that we can buy for $500, or let's say, investments that are anywhere in that range, investments up to $1,000 or even up to, more than that probably. But again, if we're going to invest that kind of money, like let's say $500, it doesn't necessarily make sense to drop $200 in the research process there, considering the percentage that represents of our total investment.
Yeah. But as we are spending more and more, that's where it could very well be worth it. And it's going to depend mostly on what the county record has available.
Yeah.
If every county records, or if every county had online records for all of their court records and everything, and we could do the searches there, we wouldn't need to ever hire a title company.
Yeah, it's true. If we had the access, or it would be kind of like if you lived locally somewhere and you could always go into a county records building.
Yeah.
Or into the recorder's office. So again, remember the first stage that we're going to go through that we could do with, let's say, just a basic property there, and we'd probably go beyond a basic 6 steps here. But what we consider stage 1 are the first 6 steps of basic property research. We call it basic property research, and this is where we're doing a combination of things. We are verifying the availability of the property first and foremost, but from there we're going to locate the county records, starting with the property assessment records, and then the GIS mapping, and then it's basically the process that we go through there initially when we're grabbing the things that we need. So from there, the Google Maps, from there we move on to checking the comps and the value, and we end that out with looking for risks and holding costs.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we've gone through this 6-step process, by that point, we've at least got a pretty good idea of the basic information on the property. The location, the value, what it's going to cost to invest into the property, what the assessor records are, the tax records. And so the only other concern we would have at this point would be is there any governmental liens, that we need to be aware of?
Yeah. In fact, these 6 steps here are pretty easy to go through. Don't necessarily take a long time. In fact, we go through them sometimes very quickly in different ways, looking for properties. But they may not be enough to satisfy certain things you need to know about the property before you're going to invest. And so there is additional research that you can do on properties. But the other thing though is a lot of times if there are issues with the property, they will weed themselves out automatically, through one of these steps. So you'll go to look at it and suddenly you'll hit a roadblock, like for instance, it's not available, or you go to check the comps and there's, everything's for sale for, $800.
Yeah. And really, even like checking the comps, if we're doing something as simple as looking at some land, we're not going to do a major full comparative market analysis. We're just getting an idea, because what we're trying to see is this property worth going to a stage 2?
Yeah, and we're trying to do this in as little time as possible, because again, at this point, we want everything to be minimal time requirement because it's easy to waste time on this.
Yeah, and I think Shade makes a good point about the properties are going to weed themselves out. So on step one, that property automatically may weed itself out because it's no longer available. And then as we check into the records, maybe they look okay, but we get at the map and we realize that it's really not buildable. Or as we keep going down these steps, we get into the comps and we see that really the value of the property in the area, there's just not enough value to try to buy this property. Or we look into the holding costs and we see the taxes are high. And so once we've kind of gone through that process, if it's past all of this, then it's worth going on and trying to do an investor title search or see if we can figure out some additional information.
Essentially what happens there, is it's qualified itself, for additional, research. And so you're not just wasting time on something, like for instance, if you skip, that stage one and you automatically go to stage two, you're going to end up pulling up all the research, all the stuff for stage one anyway, but you haven't gone through and checked it. So you're going to end up putting a lot of time and effort into it, and it may not even be available. So you've always got to go through these same steps every single time because it's a qualification-based process.
Yeah, exactly. And each one of those, in a way, it kind of builds on each other.
Yeah. So the second stage of this is to do a title search or to have title research performed on the property. And again, the value of the property is what's going to determine which one's probably more appropriate to do. We have the option here between a professional title search and an investor title search. And as we do that, it's going to help us identify everything else about the property, as well as any potential risks. But in some cases, though, even that may not be enough if the property has improvements or structure.
Yeah, or the same could apply if we're spending enough money on land. Where we really need to see what the property looks like, or if something is kind of unclear from the satellite image, and we're spending several $1,000s on the property.
Right. And so in that case, it's going to warrant an on-site evaluation. And no matter how you do it, there's just no inexpensive way to do an on-site evaluation. Even if you're paying handyman to do it, it's still a hard expense. Or even if you're having family go and do it, there's still
going to be $100.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact, you need to pay them. And so, we want that to be that final stage, in the process there, so that we're not just doing it and losing money on properties that we don't really have a chance to win. At this point, they should be properties that we are either going to have a good chance of winning, or maybe things we can get over the counter.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're going to go and start looking at some county records here, and it's some different tax sales, and from there we're going to start digging into some of these records. In fact, we're going to go through those 6 steps there, and as we do that, we're going to be able to start digging into some of the title research on the property. But it's important to remember, or I think to understand, how county records are kind of broken down.
Yeah, in fact, in those first 6 steps in the first process, we really kind of hit the assessment records and the tax records in that first step, that first process. And so really the stage 2 is going into those legal records.
Yeah, it's true. The property assessment records are oftentimes, going to be linked directly to the property in the tax sale list, or if you pull it up by parcel number, then it's the record that's most oftentimes going to come up with a summary or tell you the value of the property, things like that. It can be handy, but there's also records that are related to the payment and issuance of property taxes. And those are all going to be records that are generally maintained by the tax collector or treasurer.
Yeah, and really the best way to find this is it's usually going to be something like the recorder or the clerk of court or the court's office or something like that. But you're just trying to identify who records the liens, the deeds, all of that information. And that's really who we're looking for. You know, we're not really necessarily looking for all of the court records. In fact, even though sometimes that's where we're going to pull it up, like traffic citations, all that kind of stuff. What we're most concerned about is things related to the property. And so whoever handles that division, it could be handles all of those, including, you know, court records like traffic citations, or it could be the recorder's office that really kind of maintains the liens and the mortgages and judgments and things like that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry, guys, I couldn't see some of the questions there very well. I could only see Dan's part because it wouldn't open up wide enough, so I was playing around with that. But I just, I was able to get it opened up big enough to read it, and so now I can see all of the all of the comments. And Dan, and don't sweat it at all. I mean, really, we are thrilled to hear about about what you're doing with some of the different properties. It's always fun for us, and I can also see that Donna is on the line. That Donna made it. So we're so happy to have you here tonight as well, Donna. This is awesome. Well, good. Let's. Oh yeah, legal records. So again, before I get too sidetracked here, forget about what I was going to cover here. When we are talking about legal records are generally separated into legal documents and court movements or actions.
Yeah.
So essentially, you'll see how that plays into the research that we do when we're going, when we perform title research on a property. Okay, so this image right here is a really important image, I think, to show, because it will give you an idea of exactly what the county means. If you ever look at county records and it tells you that the deed is located in a certain book and page number. This also helps to illustrate what we're talking about. With that, it is the county's responsibility to record property deeds and other records there within the county, and that this is the system that they use to do it.
Yeah, out of the thousands of counties, I'm sure there's still hundreds of counties that this is their only forms.
Yeah.
Small counties, rural counties, but if you needed a deed, you actually pulled out that book, and inside that book is dozens of deeds.
Yeah, I think it's still how it's done.
And so what a lot of the counties have done really since we first started in tax sale investing is they've taken all of this information, they put it online, or they put it in some type of online database.
Yeah.
Even if it's not online directly. And so that, not all counties are pulling out the old book and pulling that information up, but there is some counties that still did it. In fact, when Michael went to some of the Arkansas auctions this year, some of the smaller counties, this is how they had to get the information. They pulled out the books and you made copies of it, and that's how it still works in some of the old counties, but that's how it used to work everywhere back at when we first got started in tax sale investing. It was really the internet that kind of changed that and made it so you can do it from anywhere.
Yeah. Originally, this was kind of the reason why tax sale investing required travel. It's because you had to be in a county office in order to be able to access those. But like Steve mentioned, though, the internet has changed that, and that's where we can come in and take advantage of the opportunity and be able to perform additional research. So really, our options with it are to either go the professional route on a title search, or to do a type of title search on our own. And there are benefits and drawbacks to both. I mean, certainly professional title searches are awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know that somebody who does it for a living, that knows where the records are at, we're able to go in there and verify all of that information. The biggest problem with title searches is, of course, we're going to be paying money out of pocket in most cases, because most counties aren't going to provide you any type of title search. Plus, there's also going to be a time frame that it's going to take, depending on the type of title search, to get that information as well.
Yeah, and they also are certainly a really useful tool, I think, for the homeowners and for us even. But they're overkill as well for what we're really concerned about. The vast majority of the information in the report is stuff that we can find or determine on our own. But what the report can do for us is stuff like it can give us definite information on whether or not liens or judgments exist against the property, and that can be great, especially if we can't access the records. It may be the only way that we can get this information.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when we're talking with title companies or trying to get a professional title search, it's important to let them know that that is the only information that we need. That really what we're looking for is a lien search, because they'll try to talk you in, or they could, into a more expensive lien search, and really what we're looking for, or
it's even just a basic one, really. Just like a lien search, though. It wouldn't even have to necessarily go back more than 10 or 20 years.
No, oh yeah, exactly. Really just since that last owner, what we're most concerned about is any type of governmental liens. And so, if they are really looking for that, if it's like a county, a title company that actually has to go down and research old records like this, or they only have, access to the records, it's not open to the public online. Well, that's going to make it a lot easier if they only need to get that information. So it should save us a lot of money. Usually the lien searches run around $100.
Yeah. Something else about title searches is that it's a generic term for what can be, either a simple or very in-depth process. It's kind of like the word car. A car can be a lot of things. It can be a very basic, inexpensive car, or it can be, a very expensive, hyper exotic. And so title searches kind of work the same way, in that, they vary in range according to how, the kind of depth, how far back you need to go. And for us, the majority of what we'll need to do, we can do with a minimal amount, of information. In fact, the lien search is the primary thing that we need. And outside of that, how much of it will be helpful for us is negligible.
Yeah.
And so with a lot of investments, it's not going to make sense to sink money into it, especially right off the bat. And so it may be an option there to perform something like investor title research, or performing your own investor title search, which basically anybody can do. So we're talking about public records. It's just a matter of knowing where to access them and if they're available, because that's the other issue with it, is that it's not going to be available everywhere. We still run into areas all the time that don't have records like this online.
Yeah, and one thing to add about counties that don't have records online, back years ago, we used to teach everyone to just contact the county and ask them, and we had even some forms and scripts that are still on the website that you call and contact the county and ask them. And if there isn't records online, it's worth it calling to, explain, hey, I'm looking at buying this tax sale property. And really, we've just always been honest with people, with the county officials. We like to buy property through the government and see if we can put it back into productive use. But, I can't find any information on this. I want to see if there's any governmental liens. Can we look to see if there's anything on this property? Can you get me a copy of the deed? Those type of things. We may have to pay a fee to have it, faxed to us or emailed or something like that. But it is still a way to get property records. Now, not all of them are going to, be willing to email it out or send it out, but some of them will.
Yeah, they will. Now, when we're talking about the actual research that we're going to be performing and looking into, I wanted to show some of these steps here before we jump over to some live stuff where we can go and look at some sites. But the steps that we go through they really happen in kind of the same order that we do some of the basic research in, because we're going to start off with the assessor records.
Yeah.
And then from there, with the assessor records, it oftentimes leads us directly to the property deed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the assessor records, we might already have that information or seen that information. You know, really what we're looking for is access to the deed, which on some online records will have links you can click on that'll take you so you can actually view the deed. Or if not, you know, contacting the county to get a copy of the deed.
Yeah, yeah, which is basically what we're looking for is the property deed. And what that's going to help us do is establish a chain of title. We can basically see who the grantee and who the grantor, you know, was in each one of the property deeds, so that you can kind of see who it was conveying hands by. And sometimes you'll see additional information.
Yeah, if there was something like an easement or something, you know, mortgage, something like that on the property could very well be listed there with on the deed. And really what we're looking for is we just want to verify that the owner's name, you know, and making sure that the owner's name is similar to or is the same that is on the assessor records, that are on the tax records, because we're going to be using this name to search the court records.
Yeah, in fact, that's where we're going to be most likely to find a lien against the property, is by looking up any kind of records associated with that owner and trying to match it up in the court records with the property address as well.
Yeah.
And trying to determine if any kind of a lien was issued, you know, against this person, and, you know, having it attached to this, you know, this property. That's kind of the best way to search the records.
And it's a good point you make about trying to match it up with the address, because we've looked up properties in the past, and let's say this property owner owned half a dozen properties within the county. Well, we look up this property and we see several different types of maintenance liens or nuisance liens on the property, but not all of those nuisance liens are connected to the property that we're researching.
Yeah.
You know, there was one or two connected to that property, one or two connected to another property, and I think a couple more connected to another property. So in doing that, you know, if we would have just looked at the lien itself, we could have assumed all 6 liens were against this property, where in fact only 1 or 2 of them were.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a really good point. And it's also part of what can make it a little bit confusing when you're dealing with certain names, you know, because the name actually can have a pretty big effect on how many records pull up, and you know, how easy or complicated that process can get. But again, this is also the kind of stuff that I'm sure that there are pros that, you know, that are really good at being able to, you know, sift through large numbers of records, you know, and know how to use all the right tools to just to look at the specific record types they want.
Yeah, you know, I would bet that most of our students, as they've gone through this process, probably know more about searching the property record and the assessor records and the deeds than, you know, almost all of your average real estate investors.
Oh, totally.
You know, just because with regular real estate, you're not getting into the same type of researching. You're just automatically getting a title search done or whatever, because you know you're buying this property, or there's not even worrying about getting it until you're getting title insurance or something on it. So when we're talking about researching court records and all of this type of information, this is the same kind of stuff that really you know, title companies do.
Yeah.
We're kind of replicate.
Yeah, replicating
exactly
what they do.
Yeah, we're copying what they do essentially.
Yeah, yeah, we're doing a lot of the same stuff here, and you know, that's because, you know, they kind of go through that same you know, through that same process. Oh, now that's a good question here. You know, Charles was wondering, you know, how do you know if the lien is for, you know, this specific property? And so, you know, what we'll see is we'll see if we can, we'll go and pull up some properties here, and let's take a look. And
if it's some type of maintenance lien, it's going to have the property listed, you know, the address of the property where the maintenance took place. And so in the example kind of gave before about Florida, we were able to tell by the, by looking at the address, because it had the address listed where the maintenance took place and where the lien was placed against. So some liens will be placed against property, governmental liens, but there may be governmental liens where the property really isn't even collateral.
Yeah. So I just went to Lee County here, and they had an auction just yesterday. I think said there were 60 properties originally, I think. And so I'm not sure how many of those actually went to auction. We can see that actually quite a few of them sold. And so some of these, it looks like they sold for high amounts. Some of these people paid $5,000 for the properties that are maybe. Of course, these look like they've got full addresses.
Yeah, well, some of these, they were assessed so high back during the real estate bubble, and a lot of people were losing land because they were paying, these properties were assessed at 30 grand or something,
Yeah.
And so people were losing because they were having to pay so much in property taxes on something they hadn't built on yet.
Yeah, it also seems like, it was a lot harder, I think, to be able to do stuff like probably like wholesale property, back before the internet was around.
One for sold for 16, it's worth 8, 9. I wonder if it's good.
Let's take a look at it and see what it is here. So we're gonna select to continue here, and
a little lot.
Yeah, a little 5,000 square foot lot about. So it's about a tenth of an acre, roughly, a little bit bigger than that. But we can see, let's see here. The value on it there they have it broken down. So they have the assessed value is about 8,600, and we could go and look. And here we go. Now, here we can see the sales transactions for the property, and we can see that the last time the property sold before this was in 2011, and it was a quitclaim deed, I believe.
Looks like they've had a couple of problems with it.
Corrective deed. And let's see, document stamp of the memo.
Man, I'll bet that's why it bid so low. Is look at all of that, just problems with the deed.
Yeah, it was improved at one point.
Yeah.
Maybe there was something that was.
Well, they split it too. I think it was, somebody split some of those lots. At least looking in the deed, it looked kind of. Because I see there were one additional parcel with this docket may have been split after transaction date.
Yeah, right there.
And they have that. Click on that other parcel. You have it underlined. Yeah.
Yeah.
One next to it. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So this is the one that that used to be with it. It's kind of dumb to separate it.
Are they the same owner? That one's Derek. Click back now. Let's see.
Yeah, that was Richard Delect.
Go up to the top.
No, this one's Michael A. Healy out of San Diego.
I'll tell you what, if I did buy that property, I'd be trying to sell it to the guy next door.
Yeah, I think I would too. And let's see here. So one of the things that we could do here is we can see here that Michael A. Healy, I believe he's probably the one that bought it here then in 2011, we would assume, but we could figure that out for sure if we click on this, which is the property deed. And from here we can see, so this was prepared by Michael Healy. And it's a quitclaim deed made between Professional Research Inc., Florida Corporation, and Michael Healy. And so they must have been the ones selling the property, this Professional Research Inc.
Oh, they had 2 parcels there listed.
Yeah. Right next, that was both of the parcels.
Yeah. So I'm saying they split it. That's where they saw the split occur. Yeah.
So we can see here that in see, forward in consideration of the sum of $10. So it was a $10 transaction.
Of course, that's just what they put in there. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean what they paid.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is, you know, what they paid. And yeah, we can see here that at this point there were two different, you know, these two properties were actually together or were sold together, but I guess were separate parcels.
Yeah, somehow they got split after the sale too, it looks like.
Yeah. So what we would do from this point, if we were looking here, is we would need to look up Michael A. Healy, and it would need to be at this site address here. Is about, you know, or it would need to match up to this parcel number if it was something. So those are two bits of information that we are going to basically look at if we're going to start looking into the court records.
Yeah, well, and one thing we can see about this owner is at least their address they have listed there in San Diego.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not local to the area, or at least they're not as of now. Which, unless they've been there in the area, there might not be a ton of records, you know, associated to his name if he doesn't live within that area.
Yeah.
For example, sometimes in some of these court records, you'll pull up everything. And so, you know, what we're really looking for as we're going through that is just anything that looks government related.
Yeah. So what we pulled up there is we're looking at Lee County. We're looking for the court records, which the nice thing with searches like this, it makes it easier for us. We can go to the court search tool here, and then from here we can also enter in, you know, the information here, and so we can go for every case type, or we can choose a certain, you know, certain types of cases there that we're looking for.
You can probably take out some of the things like traffic and small claims, but you can just search all too.
Yeah, let's see here, domestic relations, criminal, county ordinance, county civil.
Most of the thing is going to be either through the county, you know, the county court, but
yeah, or municipal ordinance.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we'll see them listed under, you know, municipal ordinance. You know, sometimes when there are nuisance liens,
Yeah.
things like that associated with it. And so, you know, in this case, what was it, like Michael A. Healy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would go like this.
But unless the person has tons of information, you know, it's easier just to search everything, just to pull up whatever comes.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see.
I don't know if you put the period or not.
Yeah, yeah, maybe I don't put the period in there. And the judicial officer here, no, don't want that. There you go. And now let's see here. We got 19 cases total here, so it's not such a big number that you know, that we couldn't look at this and kind of see here quickly. So
it's actually more than I thought there'd be though.
Yeah. So
you must have done a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah, but you know, here we can see here's the lien foreclosure. You know, right there on, you know, the condo association. Let's see here, and you know, Lot Warehouse Inc. Status is disposed. California real property actions. I'm not sure, but this right here, I wonder if that could be state of Florida versus. That's for parking violations, though. Let's
Eternity.
See. Yeah. You know, that this lien foreclosure we might look at and see.
You know, that Department of Financial Services, state of Florida, we might look at it too, just to see.
Yeah, let's take a look and see what that is. Yeah, you're kind of trying to decipher what some of these things are to see if you know, if it could be anything there. Let's see here. This is And cancellation, summons of withdrawal, extension time. Yeah, this is proof of publication, notice of action. I mean, this sounds like a foreclosure. Notice of hearing. But then there was a motion to dismiss for lack of prosecution and hearing notice. Whatever this thing was. You know, it was a civil court. Well, there's the civil cover sheet. That'll probably tell us.
This really is a bit of a detective work. You know, we're just kind of going through and looking.
Yeah, even kind of like that property that we were looking at in Florida.
Yeah.
You know, the house waiver of service.
Let's look at one of the other ones.
Yeah, there's so many interesting properties here. Let's not get too hung up on this one. Let's see here. So let's see if anybody else got some good deals. So they're valuing these, you know, 13,000 people kind of paying about full price. That these still may be pieces of land. They're decent, but let's see.
Now we could go look at that Palm Beach, that one that sold today too.
It's being offered tomorrow. You mean that one?
No, the Palm Beach one, not the Orlando.
Oh.
This Palm Beach is the one that I gave the example today about property selling for about 10 grand, worth about 80, I think.
Yeah, let's take a look at the results here on this one. So
that
this
first one.
Yeah, this is. Let me make this just a little bit bigger here for you. And this is the one with Grant Street Group. So we can expand that out there by hitting that plus sign, and we can see. So this property here.
Oh, never mind. It went for 77. Oh, I thought it was. I didn't realize it.
Here, opening bid of 9,
77.
sold for 77. Let me see if anything else here.
Well, there's actually quite a few. I sent over a Google Doc with some of the results on it to you earlier. Google Slides. There were some homes that sold between, you know, 30 to 50 cents on the dollar, maybe less.
Oh yeah, we've got some of them right here.
You know, but then there were some properties in there that I was just really surprised that people paid that much for it, you know.
Let's see what some of these look like. So this one, opening bid was 13.6 and it sold for just over that.
I think this just kind of land. Most of them are. Well, there's quite a few homes on that dock, but I was thinking that one was sold for 9,000. I was like, oh man, that was a killer deal, but it did sell for more. I was thinking, you know, it had to, just based off of what I was seeing, I was thinking that land had to have some high value to it. So it doesn't surprise me that it sold for quite a bit more. I think the Florida, yeah, that one.
All right, let's see here. Let's pull these up here. We can look at them. Oh yeah, okay, so we can see here. So we've got.
I thought that one's ended up selling for opening bid. I didn't see it, but some of the other ones did.
Yeah, so this is the one that opened up at 25 about and sold for 52. You know, it's a little house estimated around 115. So still, you know, about 50% of market, a little bit less than that. This one sold for 90,000.
Yeah,
you know, opened up for 14, sold at 90,000, valued at, you know, assessed is 126. Let's see.
Well,
here.
and it has the estimates 164.
Yeah, 164 there. So it's still going to be profitable for them.
Yeah, and that one actually was pretty nice.
Yeah, this one opened up for 34,000 and sold at 73,000. Has improvement value of 76,000. That's kind of interesting how they don't have any land value with it.
Well, it's because
it's a condo. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a condo for 34.
Yeah, and the thing about, you know, you can see where some of the competition is getting kind of aggressive because in a condo situation, these were newer condos.
Look at that, these $234,000.
That's what I was saying. Like, you know, back in 2007, you know, he overpaid, but these condos were selling for, you know, a ton more, 200 grand or so. And so, you know, it's kind of amazing that.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, so we can see there.
I think the estimate was real low because I couldn't find any property for sale in that area.
Yeah, and that could very well be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 73,000.
So let's
if
say
they're not sitting at,
yeah,
you know,
let's say
half.
let's say it's worth, you know, even 130 or 140 if you don't have to put much work into it. You know,
Yeah.
you're just kind of cleaning the title.
Yeah, totally. It still would be decent.
Yeah, this one needed some work on it, you know, but I think the value, you know, was around 140 or so.
Yeah, basically sold for about the opening bid amount here.
This one was actually really nice.
Yeah, this one opened up at 16,000, sold for 89, but is estimated to be worth about 170. You know, has a tax assessed of 107. You know, so you know that was workable there. But okay, so let's take a look at one of those here. Where's this at here? In fact, maybe Palm Beach will be kind of interesting to look at, because maybe we can take a look at a house. So one of these here that sold for.
Probably look at the slide and see what the prices they sold for and figure out which one we want to look at.
Yeah, this is the one right here. Or that one right there for 90. You know, this one looks pretty nice. So, okay. So what we're going to do here is from this spot right here, we can actually see both kinds of records. You know, we've got the tax records here, or the you know, we get the tax history on the property right there if we want. We can also get the property assessment by clicking here. And yeah, what we would do here is we would start looking it up under the owners there. We can see that this property sold last.
Well, one thing I liked about it is that, you know, they have that life estate there, no big deal, but it's just full of warranty deeds. You know, you see the last sales price was 166. So,
yeah,
you know, at one time.
Yeah, in 2006 it sold for 166, and so really the value on it is pretty good. In fact, you know, it's got to be worth.
You know, we'll have time to click on it now. Oh, actually, we almost have a ton total.
Right.
But you see where it says nearby cell search.
Yeah,
that's where you could click on.
Yeah,
and find more
if we wanted to do
comparables.
comps in this area, we could pull it up here based on a certain address. So right here, you know, if we want it within an 1/8 mile, you know, when it says include only qualified sales, is that essentially meaning only warranty deeds? I wonder if they're qualified, if it means in that way. Yeah, qualifying of sales, I've always thought is something interesting when they talk about that with counties. But we could also pick different kinds of comps that we can go off of here. You can get far more detailed with a county record. I mean, at some point when you're doing comps, you have to use a county record.
Well, and this can also come into play if we're looking at something like a more commercial type stuff. It's going to be harder to find comps on, and this is where we can even look for, okay, well, here's apartment 10 unit. You know, I can find something similar to it. Yeah. Or even something like a condo where it's just searching condos that have sold.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're totally out of time. Didn't hardly get a chance to dig into it deeper, but we'll do more trainings. We'll see everybody here in just a minute on the weekly webinar.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for attending.